Welcome to Benchwarmers, another big week of American sport coming up. We've got on this show, we're going to be looking at the Merseyside Nighthawks and the Chester Romans, the big derby.
Merseyside derby, yeah.
Yeah, and we've got Kate joining us a bit later on. Kate's going to be doing some training with the Liverpool Roller Birds this week, who we featured only a few weeks back. Well, we featured last week London Warriors, London Blitz. That was our big game of the week. This weekend, Nighthawks Romans. It's the northern fixture in the big derby weekends. This is the Chester Romans home game. Don't forget, in a couple of weeks we're going to be at the Nighthawks seeing the return leg. So if you're watching this now, make sure you get that into your fixtures calendar. Come down and see that game. We've got all the action from the Nighthawks Romans game coming up just shortly, with a few of the interviews as well from the guys after the game. So enjoy.
We're at Chester County Sports Club, home of the Chester Romans, where we see the visitors, the Nighthawks, taking on the Romans. Nighthawks currently sitting on top spot of the NFC 1, and also you got the Chester Romans currently sitting at the bottom. There's no love lost between these two teams. This is going to be one hell of a battle. I'm joined by Coach Simon Wainwright of Chester Romans. Simon, going into today's game, you not had the greatest start to the season. Nighthawks are sitting top of the division. What's your preparation been for this one?
It's not been much different than any other week, Gary, really. We've been looking at the game film. Obviously, Merseyside, very explosive offence. But there's a lot of local pride involved with this one, So some of the guys are looking past the fact of our records and just looking at the fact that it's a local rival. We just want to do our best.
I'm joined by Nighthawks running back, Monahan. And Deshaun, what kind of a game for you today?
Pretty amazing game. We've taken it to 5-0 again. I'm just getting the most experience out of this game and just playing American football for the seniors for the first year, coming up from the juniors. So same team, I'm just transitioning, just learning as much as I can because I want to take it all the way.
Of course, being a junior last year and stepping up to the seniors has been a big step. How have you found the difference?
Getting bigger hits. I'm taking bigger hits, but I'm able to transition and learn to stay low with my body, protecting my body as much as I can. I'm in the gym training, trying to get stronger and more powerful on the field. So it's just been a crazy 5 games already.
So obviously there's a good camaraderie in the Nighthawks camp, and obviously you're taking some experience from these guys. Do you think stepping up from the juniors, do you think the junior program helped you making that transition up to senior?
Well, yeah, because I started last year playing for the juniors and I had no experience in American football, no experience on any field games. The only experience I had was like my fighting and basketball. So bringing it onto the field was completely new, but the transition from being at the juniors, just running back and playing linebacker, it's just made this game so much easier for me, and the help with all the Nighthawk coaches is unbelievable.
So is Deshaun Monahan a name we're going to hear a lot more of in the future, I think?
Hopefully, I hope so. I'm just going to keep going for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm joined by head coach Craig Pennington of the Nighthawks. Craig, it was a resounding victory here today, 63-14. You came into the game top of the conference. Chester obviously lower down, but I think that all went out the window, did it?
I think to start with, we came out a bit. People were tentative; they didn't know what to expect, and Chester came out really hard and ran really well, and it made the defence think, "Oh my God, what's going on? We're in the game." Which it's fantastic for our guys to play against teams that want to do that. I think in the end, it was more of the group working hard, and our offence started to make their adjustments, and that's where obviously we got better and we started making the scores that we needed to make.
So it's obvious, teams lower down, people would say the form book would kind of put you in as a favourite going in, but you don't take nothing for granted. Each team are obviously trying to take your scalp being the top team. You've got Gateshead next. It's a long trip away. What's your preparations for that then?
Well, every time we prepare for a team, it's the same way. We'll have a practice on Wednesday. We'll have a practice on Friday. We'll keep the guys together, sort out the injuries, and we'll get on there. Get ready for them, scout them, make sure we know what we're doing when we come against them.
And where do you see yourselves at the end of the season, or is that too early to say?
We don't talk about things like that. We just talk about making sure we win the next game, and wherever it takes us, it takes us.
And it's all about us, isn't it?
It is all about us. It's all about what we do and how we prepare, and the things that we do off the field that transition into the field, and that was our philosophy this year.
All right, thanks very much, Coach.
All right, thank you.
I'm joined by Chester Romans coach Simon Wainwright. Simon, bit of a tough loss for you today.
Yeah, it was bad really. We started off really well in that first quarter, and we were hanging on in there. Got a couple of little injuries to some of our better players, and in the end it was just the explosiveness of Merseyside's offence. It really sort of ripped us apart.
Well, Coach Pennington was saying to us earlier that you've been one of the better teams coming out of the gates early on, and it was 14-14 at one point, which made the game quite interesting. How did you prep coming into this game? What was so different about this one?
Wasn't much different than the other games that we played, but we were just so aware that Merseyside can score points, you know, really quickly, and it was important for us to try and hang on in there. And we knew that it was never going to be a 7-7 game or a 7-0 game, that it was going to be lots of points, and our big deal was that we needed to try and disrupt the offence of Merseyside and get some points on the board. And I thought we sort of were doing that with the first quarter, but I think the difference was the consistency. We consistently couldn't do that for the game, and the Nighthawks did. They consistently did it quarter on quarter, and shows really why they're ranked at number 1.
All right, Simon, well, we wish you the best of luck against Nottingham, and thanks for talking to us.
No problem, thanks very much.
Cheers, mate. Joined by Mike Ireland, GM and offensive line coach and player for the Chester Romans. Mike, not the result you were expecting today then?
No, but as it was said before in the huddle at the end by the coach, when you're up against, like, you know, the top team in the division, north and south, you know, to be able to do a first quarter like we did, I was happy with that. We scored. I mean, there's so many times the Nighthawks have put a 0 on teams. To be able to at least get a couple of scores in, I was quite proud. Then we got a couple of injuries, you know, the heads dropped, and then fair play, your number 2 Adrian and number 3 started ripping us apart. It was like, oh, hang on a minute, he can dance, and that was the tall and short of it. But you know, it's one of those days. It's always, for me, because I've been playing since '06, it's always quite a cute fixture, because at the start of the game you come over and there's always a bit of a giggle, it's always friendly, and then during the game, there's a few sort of like on the line, especially a shout to Bob Evans. I go, hey Bob, and he goes, leave me alone, Mike, leave me alone. Oh, hey Bob. But that's the way it is. And then the whistle blows, and there was a little bit of a scrumble at the end, and number 97 came up and said, I'm really sorry, I didn't know he was out of bounds. And that's what this game's about. We are neighbours. We're just up the 53, and everybody knows everyone, and it's just one of those games, and fair play. And it's an absolute monster of a squad the Nighthawks have got this year, so it's one of them things.
It's got to be said that it's quite a close rivalry between the two teams, and obviously you know a lot of the players in either team swap places and stuff like that, but it's nice to see that the sport can be put aside and you come together on the field and enjoy the sport in the same way, but there's no difference at the end of the day. There's no animosity, there's no nastiness, but it's regardless of the result today. Coach Wainwright was saying earlier that you trip to Nottingham next. That's going to be a tough one.
It is. In the first quarter we gave up 3 scores, and then we clawed it back, and it was so close that there was a stoppage near the end, and there was a bad snap by a standing centre that and we fluffed it right next to the end. If we'd have got that, we would have been laughing. So we're going in hopeful. We're just going to go, we're going to rest up this week, look after ourselves after I finish nights, have a bit of a sleep, and then just have a go and see what happens. It's just one of those things now. We're just going out and having some fun. We're not eyeing up playoffs, we're just trying to have a bit of a giggle with it and enjoy the sport.
Coach Wainwright was also saying that obviously he's looking at a mid-table finish for you for this season, and he'd be quite happy with that. Would you consider this a development year again for Chester?
Very much so. When we came up to this division, it was I said at the start I would be more than happy. I'd be over the moon with 5 and 5. I think we'll struggle to get it, but we've got, for example, on the O-line, for us, we've got the right tackle is a junior player, the centre, Big Mike, is a junior player. We've got a rookie left guard. So if they sort of, they're coming of age now. This halfway through the season, we're watching them kind of get used to playing. They come back next year and we keep going in the same thing. We could do some work, and especially like today we had Ash as our running back, number 34. If we get a couple more running backs in that are fit and healthy, next year we might be laughing. But this is definitely a developmental year and a year for learning. It's a big change, especially with Coach Wainwright, his first year as head coach, Gaz his first year as OC, Phil Bailey was dropped in at DC after the first couple of games. He went, it's just one of them things. We take it, we'll learn from it, and in the off season hopefully develop ourselves and get better.
Right, well, thanks for joining us, Mike, and we wish you the best of luck with the rest of the season.
Cheers, Gaz. See you soon, man.
Welcome to another Farnham Report. Huge weekend in Bath for football this weekend. We're just past the midway point of the season, so games start having some real meaning about them now. Everybody's looking for those new bowl places. Everybody wants to be playing in a bowl game from the end of the year. And that's going to be a wonderful system, provided it all plays out well and we get the teams that we want in those bowl games. In the Premiership, North Lancashire Wolverines needed a win this weekend. They were playing the Yorkshire Rams. They needed the win to keep themselves up to the Tamworth Phoenix and keep themselves ahead of the East Kilbride Pirates, and they managed to pick up a big win. They beat the Rams earlier in the season, so we didn't expect, to be fair, for the Wolverines to lose this game, and they didn't. They came through, did exactly what we expected. Early on, it was a tight game. At one point, it was 9-7. And the Rams looked like they were there to put up a fight, but the Wolverines used their experience and that wonderful setup that they've got there. Came out 45-7 victors in the end, and it was a great day of football up there for them. In the NFC 1 North, of course, you know about the Merseyside Nighthawks and the Chester Romans. A bit of an embarrassing defeat for the Romans, a team that competed really, really well with the Nighthawks last year. For whatever reason, they're not even close. 63-14 there. What can you say? The Nighthawks are clicking at the moment. They're firing on all cylinders. They're approaching 20 games unbeaten. So what can you say? It's going to be a wonderful time. Of course, the next big game for them is the Gateshead Senators away next week, but more on that in a little bit. Elsewhere in the division, Edinburgh Wolves, they travel down to Doncaster Mustangs. They're actually in the middle of they're on game 4 of 5 of a road trip since their last home game, which was that defeat to the Nighthawks way back. What can I say? They went down there, they picked up another 49-0 victory. Last week they went to Gateshead and won by a good 40 points as well. This is a team that, after that defeat to the Nighthawks, they look like they're sticking around. They look like they're going to be in there come the end of the season. That one defeat that they've got so far to the Nighthawks is all that's keeping the only difference between those two teams right now. So expect to see these teams possibly play off somewhere down the line. What can I say? Elsewhere in the division, Gateshead Senators, the team that the Nighthawks are playing, they play the Clyde Valley Blackhawks. This is a big game for both teams because they both needed the win. Gateshead to make sure that their season got back on track and that they were in with a shout of playoff football come the end of the season, and Clyde Valley to keep themselves up there with the Edinburgh Wolves and the Merseyside Nighthawks. The Senators, who haven't been particularly good at home this season, managed to pick up a good solid win. What can I say? The first half it was 6-0 at half-time. A brilliant defensive battle there. Defence is really coming out. Both teams made the adjustments in the second half, and it was the Gateshead Senators who came out strong. They got a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to give themselves an 8-6 lead. From there, they never really looked back, and they managed to take the game 28-14, I believe it was, at the end. As I said, it's a big game for the Senators because next week they've got the Merseyside Nighthawks coming up. They've got the division leaders. The whole division's going to be watching that game, and we know that the rest of the division wants the Nighthawks to lose that game. It's a big game as well because I do believe the last time the Nighthawks lost the game, it was in fact at Gateshead. That was a couple of years ago in the playoffs. So those players are going to be wanting to go up there and show exactly the progression that they've made as the season's gone on. So next week, huge game. Whole division is going to be watching that, and I know I'm definitely going to be watching that with bated breath. Elsewhere, the Halton Spartans in Division 2, they had a tough game which they lost to local rivals Crewe Railroaders. They lost that 14-12. It leaves both teams now at 3-3, 500 record. It pretty much means playoff football's out the window, or it's out of their hands at least. They've got to wait for other results to go for them. Next weekend, or this weekend now even, the what can I say? London Warriors against the London Blitz. If you're in the area or you're near to the area, get down and watch that game. That is going to be a phenomenal game. Those two teams is potentially a Brit Bowl preview, so if you get a chance, watch that game.
So we're joined now by Kate, our roller derby
Groving
reporter and roller derby expert now, because you've been to this is your second session down with the Liverpool Roller Birds. You filmed some interviews with them last time. This time going out for training though, how was it?
Initially frightening. It was really panicking before I put the skates on, wobbled a little bit, but once I got going, Callie, who I worked with, was absolutely amazing, and I've got to say thank you very much to her for supporting me in more ways than one. Great time down there, interesting ways of training. They have a schedule which we talked about, and it was just a fantastic experience to be part of this sport, actually taking part with the skates on. Going from skating in straight lines to being in a huddle within an hour was quite strange. Initially shut my eyes, but then got used to it, and it was really, really pleasant evening actually.
Well, this is a first for Benchwarmers, somebody actually going out and trying the sport and succeeding, which unlike the rest of us. So let's see how Kate got on.
So when you're putting on your kit, you want to make sure you have all your protection on before you put on your skates. So these are your knee pads.
Okay.
These are your elbow pads, and these are your wrist guards.
When we met with you last, I noticed that when I was out shopping there was a lot more things available for roller derby and roller skating in general. Have you found that the sport has increased popularity within the retail area?
I do think so, and I think you find a lot more actually sport-specific skating gear instead of like before it would be maybe disco skating or jam skating that you would see in the sports stores, whereas now you have protective gear more often and you have more professional style skates. Those are upside down. So flip that around so the top is cupping your elbow there. And I just skated last night, so all of my gear is still wet and sweaty, which is another problem of the derby girl.
How often do you train?
We train 3 to 4 days a week, depending on which team you're on. And I do 3 to 4 days a week because I coach our new skaters. So I'm there a few more times a week than most, maybe. Okay, so the first thing you do when you get up is you don't stand up like normal. You get up on your knees, and you put one skate underneath you, and you push yourself up on this leg. There you go.
Okay.
Feel good?
Let's go.
If you fall and hit your head, yes, your helmet's going to save you from most concussions, but there's a certain kind of fall where if you take an impact down here or you impact like this, the teeth moving up into your head can cause a concussion internally. So the mouth guard is to prevent that as well. So always put it in. girls are doing right now is training ourselves to be in control of our upper body. And that is done by holding something under our arms and doing different moves without letting them fall.
Alright,
So
okay.
the things we've been doing, the single knee falls and the plow stop, I'm going to put these under your arms and you're going to do them without dropping them. Okay? Are you ready? Alright, so just hug that in. Hug that one in there. Alright.
Still in one piece.
For now.
It looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that somebody who's never even done the sport. You've done roller skating before, though.
I had roller boots as a difference, which I found out on the evening.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you would think if you were a roller skater, it's straightforward. Obviously, it's not.
And it's a completely different way of doing it. As a roller booter, I used to pretend I was running, but on the skates, you keep them on the floor. And that was what alienated me at the start. But as I said before, the footage, credit to the girls down there. They invited me in. I was part of their training session. It wasn't kind of this person who just arrived and who did a little bit. And I actually took full part in some of the drills that they were doing. And I just got to thank them for not only the support on the evening, but for making the team feel welcome there. Got some great bonds now with the roller derby team, and they have actually asked, will I go down a bit more and train with them?
Kate will be back with us next week because we'll be featuring some more roller derby. We're going to be going to see
Will Whips versus North Wales roller derby.
Another big derby game, same as the Nighthawks Romans, but the roller derby equivalent. Make sure you join us for that. We've got all our action coming up, more interviews, loads more stuff happening next week. We'll see you then.